everybody, welcome back to another episode of Shifty's 49ers Talk. In today's video, we're going to quickly talk about the Niners' massive win over the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then I'm going to give you some players who I believe their stock is either going down or headed right up. Let's not waste any more time, let's jump right in. So, as we all know, the 49ers got a massive Week 1 win on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers, 30-7, and it was pure dominance from start to finish. Basically, for 58 minutes of this game, the Niners absolutely dominated the Pittsburgh Steelers. With the exception of the final 2 minutes in the first half, I just thought the Niners controlled the game, and the game was never really in doubt once it got going, and just amazing performance. Now, with this video, I do want to focus on stock down and stock up for certain players. I'm going to start off, normally I would go stock up first, but this time I'm going to go stock down because there really isn't much to talk about here. And if we are going to talk about some of the players who I believe right now their stock is down, let's start off with Colton McKivitz. Now, look, he had a really tough assignment. His first start here of the season, one of his only starts in his career, and he has to go on the road against TJ Watt. He did give up 3 sacks to TJ Watt. TJ Watt had 5 quarterback hits and was just amazing all game long. So really tough assignment for Colton McKivitz, and unfortunately he didn't really step up to the plate in that regard. Now, it wasn't a complete disaster for Colton McKivitz. Brock Purdy did have some time in the pocket many different times. The run game was effective at times too, which leads to showing that, look, McKivitz made some solid plays, but the 3 sacks, that's going to be just a thorn that sticks to the side of you. And I think that McKivitz, of all the players, stock down a little bit. Now, sticking with the stock down, I'm actually going to stay on the offensive line, and we're going to stay on the right side of the offensive line, and a little bit down, I believe, is going to be Spencer Burford. Didn't give up any sacks in the game. However, 2 penalties against him, not ideal. I do think it's going to take a little bit of time for Burford and McKivitz to really gel so they can, be able to, withstand things like stunts and, different pass rush moves and just build that chemistry. That is one of the biggest things which I always look for in offensive lines. If you can keep continuity, build that chemistry, that's going to be so massive for the offensive line. The other 4 positions on the offensive line, Williams, Banks, Brendel, and Burford, they all know each other. McKivitz is the new guy, so it's going to take Burford and McKivitz a couple of games. They have another tough assignment next week with Aaron Donald against the Rams, but I'd like to see these guys bounce back a little bit better. Both these guys, though, a little bit of a concern, but I do think they will work it out. The only other stock down that I can say is going to be the special teams kick return coverage. We gave up just over 30 yards per kick return. Not great, could have been a lot worse. No massive kick returns. The longest the Steelers had was 34 yards. However, you definitely like to see that number more so in the 20s as opposed to 30.3 kickoff return yards allowed on average. Not great. Those can be cleaned up. Hopefully we'll see maybe Jake Moody, as he gets a little bit healthier, he takes the kickoff duties instead of Mitch Wishnowsky and can just kick it for touchbacks just consistently. That's all I ever ask for from my kicker when it comes to kickoffs. Just kick it for a touchback. But coming up next, guys, and we're going to talk a lot about this, are going to be my players whose stock is going way up. Now, when you have a massive win like we did, there's going to be a lot of positives to talk about, which is a great thing. It's great being able to have so many positive things to talk about the 49ers. Now, we're going to start off on the offensive side of the ball. And stock up for me, Brock Purdy. Talk about just the amount of pressure that Brock Purdy was under for this game. We trade away Trey Lance. Week 1 on the road, expectations are sky high for the team to succeed, and he delivered in a massive way. Comfortably over 200 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, was able to pick up some nice first downs with his legs, make some really good moves with his legs to open up passing lanes. A great one he did to Brandon Ayuk, kind of moved around the pocket effectively, nice throw to Ayuk. The one concern, look, he got sacked, fumbled the ball, almost pretty much fumbled it twice actually in the game. But beyond that, I thought Purdy looked really, really good. And again, under so much pressure, the pressure to perform for him was immense, and he delivered. And I think the teammates, we saw it on Instagram, they believe in Brock Purdy, and I think he'll just get better and better and better as the season goes on, as he gets more reps. What a big surprise for Brock Purdy, just looking I mean, not even for me, but just a surprise maybe around the NFL. They thought maybe he'd crumble under the pressure. He stood up to the test, and boy, did he pass it. Now, if we're going to move on and keep looking at the offensive side of the ball, stock up, I'm going to say Aaron Banks. I thought at left guard, Aaron Banks looked really, really good. No pressures given up, no sacks given up, no penalties. Really good performance. A lot of the big runs in that 65-yard run, running between, I think it was like the center and left guard for Christian McCaffrey. Aaron Banks, I thought, looked great. I thought he was our best offensive lineman on the day. Trent Williams coming in second, but I love the performance of Aaron Banks. I think it's possible if he can continue this kind of play, and look, he's comfortable now with Williams, with Brendel either side of him, that he could have a Pro Bowl caliber year. For me, Aaron Banks stock way up. You have to talk about Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is absolutely another player stock up. I think any 49er fan can say that we have big expectations for Brandon Ayuk, but he exceeded them. 8 catches, almost 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. That second touchdown was just amazing. Like, that coverage by Patrick Peterson was really good, but perfectly played by Brandon Ayuk. Also, defeating one-on-one coverage, man coverage, Brandon Ayuk, just so darn impressive from start to finish, and just really developing to the number one receiver that this team really needs to succeed. Moving forward, Brandon Ayuk, just love it, love it, love it, love it. Let's not forget, too, the massive block he made in the big run for Christian McCaffrey. Just amazing, amazing performance. Let's now move on and talk about the defensive side of the ball. And there were so many star players who played up to their level that we expect. Guys like Fred Warner were amazing, Dre Greenlaw, Nick Bosa. But let's talk about some of the other guys. Drake Jackson, what a monster performance by the second-year man out of USC. 3 sacks, showing off his athleticism. We saw in the offseason he bulked up, improved his strength. We also saw that on display. And really just seeing that second year under the coaching of a guy like Chris Kocurek, that it's paying dividends. He's putting it all together right in front of our eyes. And that was on display against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those sacks, some of them you could argue were absolutely coverage sacks, but I think just looking at his athleticism, massively impressive performance by Drake Jackson. The other guy who I really want to talk about on defense is actually another edge player, and that's Clelin Ferrell, coming over from the Vegas Raiders, underwhelming in Las Vegas, but with San Francisco in his first game, didn't necessarily light up the stat sheet with sacks and forced fumbles and things like that, but just played really, really good, solid football, disrupted many plays. We saw there was a run play which he just destroyed it, blew it up in their face. Clelin Ferrell, really, really good performance, again, across from a guy like Nick Bosa, and now we're really seeing the depth we have at edge. Getting Nick Bosa signed to the massive deal, and even though he didn't fill up the stat sheet, he was probably maybe our best defender on the day, just did everything that you needed him to do. But Clelin Ferrell, Drake Jackson, their stock is absolutely soaring high. Look, I could talk all day about other players, on the team, Talanoa Hufanga, Mooney Ward, but I think their stock was already really high, and they just kind of played at their incredibly high level that we already expect. Maybe that's a little bit unfair, but the biggest thing for me was just seeing Drake Jackson and Clelin Ferrell having that kind of a game week 1 is just so big for the team moving forward, and it's just so big for the defense. Nick Bosa not having to rely on him like we did last season to be the primary sack guy. Also impressive to see Javon Hargrave get a sack. Eric Armstead was incredibly disruptive. I thought Kinlaw and Givens were really solid as part of the rotation, but the biggest thing, one of the biggest things coming out from defense from week 1 is just the emergence of Drake Jackson, Clelin Ferrell. Can't understate enough just how important that is for the San Francisco 49ers moving forward in this long 2023 season. Now let's very quickly throw a shout out too, in terms of stock up, special teams, Jake Moody. Not a great preseason at all. Missed a bunch of kicks, then got hurt. I think we were all, including myself, very concerned heading into the season. Is Jake Moody the guy? Should we re-sign Robbie Gould? Maybe it should be Zane Gonzalez or Wright, who we brought in. But no, Jake Moody came in, nailed every field goal, nailed every extra point. I think put a lot of the concerns to rest. It's only one game, but he hit a bunch of his field goals. That's going to be massive for the confidence moving forward. moving into the next games against LA, then at home against the Giants. That's going to be just so big for his confidence and a really important part of the game, because just like every season, there's going to be many close games. The Niners have a tough schedule this year. If you have that reliable kicker, that can also be just an absolute game changer. Jake Moody looking really good. That is just a huge weight off the shoulders of Kyle Shanahan and the entire team. So great to see Jake Moody really just stepping up to the plate in a tough situation on the road, week 1, first NFL game. Love to see that. Now, that's going to do it, you guys, for this video. Let me know some players who, in your opinion, really stepped up. Their stock is soaring. I want to hear that in the comments, whether you agree with the list I have, whether you disagree. Let me know your thoughts. But if you enjoyed the video, do drop a like on the video, as it really helps out. Feel free to share it on social media. If you do like the content as well, subscribe to the channel, because it really, really does help out. And I'm going to leave it there, but before I go, I'm going to say 2 things. The butt counts. I'll catch you guys on the flip side.